Thank you.
The question is that part two. I call the Honourable Marianne Street.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the call. I'm obviously the irony of this bill coming back to the House on this I Love Doc Day. It doesn't escape anybody. While this part of the bill does not draw a great deal of criticism from us because it amends the Conservation Act in ways that are probably quite constructive, but the irony still remains that it is a very odd thing to have this piece of legislation, which in other parts works against conservation and the protection of the environment, to be brought in on this day when people up and down the country are protesting about the cuts to the Department of Conservation. Mr. Chairman, I want to add my concerns to those of others who have expressed their views about cuts to staff in the Department of Conservation, but use a particular local example that is of significance. If one looks at the numbers alone, as the Minister of Conservation has done in the recent past, it would appear that only 4.5 positions, 4.5 FTEs, will be taken out of the Nelson region of the Department of Conservation. In fact, he conveniently ignores the fact that there are currently 10 vacancies, so we're losing 14.5 people out of that region. Mr. Chairman, if this part two of the legislation is to be upheld and implemented in a way that enhances the protection of our conservation estate, it is a truism to say we need more people, not fewer. And the argument of the Minister of Conservation earlier today in the House that, in fact, the way forward for maintaining these wilderness areas or sanctuary areas or whichever part of our country is going to be included and renamed into the conservation estate, which is what this part two of the bill covers, then the partnerships with the community seem to be the poor man's way of achieving optimal protection. This is the cheap way, by using volunteer labour of committed people up and down the country and relegating the government's responsibility for the conservation estate to the back burner, because it's with that idea in mind that Department of Conservation, with its reduced numbers, will have to engage with the community in order to get any ongoing protection. So, Mr. Chairman, my concern about Part 2, while it has words in it that I applaud, and I don't have a particular problem with it, but my ongoing concern is that there will not be the infrastructure and the personnel available in the Department of Conservation to allow Part 2 to be implemented and to be observed in the way that I presume the Minister intends it to be. So a conservation area, for example, under Part 2, declared to be held for the purpose of a wilderness area, a sanctuary area, or both, under this section, must be managed in a manner that is consistent with that purpose or those purposes, as the case may be. I am quoting from 57.4 of Part 2, Mr. Chairman. So if a conservation area, which is held to be a wilderness area or a sanctuary area, is to be managed in a way that is consistent with that purpose, then it needs to have the requisite personnel and the suitable oversight and resourcing given to it by government to meet that purpose. And this is not what we're seeing. Thank you very much, Mr.
The question is that part two... The Honourable Member Catherine Delahunty. Tēnā koe, Ms.
Tēnā koe. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I feel an urgent need to take a call on part two because